All right, welcome back, everybody, to Victory Outdoors, the podcast. We're excited you guys are here, and we've got a guest with us today. Zoe Phillips from TACTACAM is joining us, and Zoe is the social media manager for TACTACAM, and fairly new to that role at TACTACAM, but we're going to talk about a little bit about deer hunting. We're going to talk a little bit about the hunting industry, a little bit about Zoe's background in both the hunting industry and bow hunting, as well as the TACTACAM products themselves. We'll kind of dive into maybe a couple of models there and just kind of get you guys all up to speed on that. But first, let's kind of introduce Zoe to you guys. And Zoe, kind of tell us a little bit about yourself, kind of where you're from and how you got started with the with working with TACTACAM.
Sure. Thank you for having me. I'm Zoe. I am the social media manager here at TACTACAM. I also recently took over our creator content influencer program as well. So I've been working all things social media along with creating campaigns and content and all of the fun stuff with different influencers to build a good clientele for TACTACAM. I am from a smaller town in Missouri. I didn't always grow up deer hunting or hunting at all. I always wanted to. I've always begged my mom and let her allow me to go hunting with my grandparents and go out and do all of that. But she was very adamant on me not doing anything like that. So when I was 16, I got my driver's license and I drove to at the time we had Gander Mountain and bought my first deer rifle and went out for Doe Fest that year, and I loved it. And since then I've just been getting more and more into hunting and doing anything I can in the hunting industry. So I've fallen in love with it and it's become a huge passion of mine.
Awesome. Yeah, that's kind of cool. Like, I feel like sometimes the hunters that are most passionate, and I'm not trying to bag on anybody, but I also grew up kind of in a non-hunting family, and people are like, really? Well, it wasn't that they were anti-hunters at all, but my dad just wasn't a hunter, and my mom, I used to beg to let her take me fishing, and like that was like the best thing. Like she actually would take me fishing and that kind of stuff. Me and my siblings, but my grandfathers were really those two main sources of influence, I guess, from a hunting perspective as well as a fishing perspective. And so that really, got me, kind of hooked on it. And I had some uncles and cousins and stuff like that that were big into deer hunting. I think my first sit ever in a tree stand, I was probably 12 years old. I had gotten some camouflage from for a Christmas present, I think, and I had a tree stand, I think, and everything, but I don't think I even had a bow or anything that you would really consider to be a deer hunting weapon of any kind. I think I had a 410 shotgun at that time, but yeah. So it's funny kind of how those other influences, it doesn't necessarily have to be that, and even some, in some ways, it's cool to see us as hunters mentoring, other people that, even if they don't have a grandfather or a, anybody else to do that. I think that's what some of those different mentoring programs are so important. And it's you're never too old to become a hunter. So like, I think what's funny is that my dad, I think I've told this story before, but I took my dad on his first ever turkey hunt. When I was probably 26 or 20, I don't know. I was in my late 20s. So, I remember taking him and he had a blast. I think he shot a double, honestly. Like, I think it
Oh,
was
wow.
fall. So it was fall. I remember it was a fall turkey hunt, and I knew where there's a bunch of birds roosted, and I was like, I can get him a bird because we'll just get close to the roost, and then they'll feed towards us. Like it won't be your typical spring turkey hunt, but it'd get him the experience of doing it. And I mean, he had been on pheasant hunts randomly here and there, and that kind of stuff, but he really just wasn't, it wasn't his thing. I mean, he loved golf, that kind of stuff. Like still is his thing. Like he's 73 years old and he still plays golf several times a week. So at any rate, you know, it's funny though how like people can influence people differently, and I don't know, there's just something that gets in your blood that is hardwired, I think, into hunters, that you just have to do it, and it becomes a passion, and it becomes something that you just love to do. And I think I've heard that from so many people that, hey, my family wasn't a hunting family, but I really always was drawn to it. And then had some other influencers that got you started into it and that kind of stuff. And so that's really awesome. I mean, it's I think that some those people are some of the most passionate people about hunting, because they didn't get to do it all the time from a young age. I think about my stepdaughter, and she shot her first deer when she was 6, and then she shot her first booner when she was let's see, 9. And she's got bigger deer on the wall than I do, and I'm like, you don't even have an appreciation for what you've done, because you know, like, I'm sitting there going, I'm awestruck by it. And she's like, yeah, I shot a big deer. Like,
Oh no.
she doesn't even understand what she's done. And she really hasn't killed a deer since. We did go hunting, and she wanted to shoot a doe, and we only got out one time that next fall. And then she's just kind of gotten into other things and that kind of stuff. And so I'm sitting there like letting her do her thing and that kind of thing, and hoping that she gets that interest, peaks back up again, because she asks occasionally, like, hey, am I going to go turkey hunting? Like, we took her turkey hunting this spring in Nebraska, and we ended up not getting her one. But like, she doesn't have that burning desire, passion that I remember I had as a kid, even though I didn't necessarily really start hunting actively until I was in my later teens, and I could drive myself somewhere. So
Right.
yeah, so your story really kind of, I think, connects with probably a lot of people, because I think it's something I've heard from a lot of people. It's kind of somewhat similar to like my story, and that kind of thing. But yeah, so kind of talking a little bit about the outdoor industry and that kind of stuff, like from a social media aspect of it. How do you kind of see the outdoor industry growing in the social media environment? Do you feel like companies will look for that next thing? Obviously, here in the last couple of years, we've seen TikTok. It's a little bit dicey on how you can work things into TikTok videos. Obviously, they got a little bit more stringent rules on what you can and can't have in them. That definitely affects the outdoor industry. I mean, kill shots kind of hit or miss on whether or not they'll get taken down.
Right.
And especially showing any kind of a weapon or dead animal seems to get you banned. At least the video banned. It might not get your whole channel banned, but it definitely probably doesn't help out your algorithms at all. But
No.
obviously, though, like, from that perspective, where do you kind of see? Do you think it'll continue, that presence in social media will continue to kind of stay in that Instagram, Facebook, Twitter kind of realm? YouTube, I guess I'll throw in that mix. Or do you see that any of the other new like Snapchat and obviously do you see that is a place of growth, or where do you see that going?
Yeah, no, I definitely think social media is one of the best ways for marketing at this point. Everybody's on social media. I mean, from every demographic, everybody's on social media at this point. It's a very much growing industry. And I think we're always going to be innovating, always going to be, taking it to the next level, seeing what's out there next. It's, TikTok is a difficult one, but it is such an important platform, even for us as hunters. One video can reach so many people in such a short period of time. And looking at it, statistically, people really only watch videos for 30 seconds, 45 seconds, a minute tops, really. So TikTok platform and YouTube has gotten bigger as well with YouTube. They call it shorts. Those videos that you can put out that are 30 to 45 seconds, I mean, they grab so much attention, get so much traction, and it can be the most random thing. I mean, throwing up a random video of a Tactacam or something like that, it doesn't even necessarily have to be a kill shot. It could be, as you said, it's difficult to, kind of post those things on TikTok. but it's still such a crucial platform for businesses to use for marketing standpoint because really that's where the audience is at. That's where people are going. They're scrolling through TikTok. Instagram and Facebook, of course, are always going to be big, and it's a really great platform. You get a little bit more leeway with your kill shots. We have a film through scope, and we've got some awesome content I've seen, and gotten through the industry of coyote hunting and elk hunting, deer hunting, all through the film through scope. I've seen some really cool coyote hunts with them and predator hunting with those, and they get a lot of traction, a lot of popularity. Everybody loves them, but I don't think social media is ever going to go away with how us hunters can show our pictures, kill shots, videos. I think it's just going to keep getting bigger and bigger, and companies know that. And I actually went to school first for nursing, and I was getting my BS and I worked in the ER as a tech and started there. And COVID hit, things changed, and I've always been interested and loved the outdoors, and kind of just tried to get my foot in the door and just took the chance. And I'm so happy I did, and changed my major to digital marketing and took some great classes and got my degree in digital marketing and social media marketing, and have really just taken off from there. So I think this is ever going to be a ongoing platform. I don't think it'll ever go away, and it's just going to keep getting bigger and bigger.
Absolutely. Yeah, I agree. And, like you mentioned, like YouTube shorts, and it's crazy because I think that has been one of the things that we've started in the last year or so. We started doing these YouTube shorts. And you're right, like they can be literally anything.
Yeah.
And so that vertical format that obviously, the reels on Instagram and YouTube shorts as well as TikTok, that vertical video feed is definitely, I think, where we're seeing the most growth. And the thing I think that um, what I've seen, like we were sitting there. So obviously we produce a TV show, and our TV show, it was basically born just in that digital world. We started on YouTube originally. We also used to share the full episodes at one point in time on Facebook. Don't do that so much anymore. But then we got into like Carbon TV, Waypoint, and some of those other platforms that host large amounts of hunting, especially platforms, that are geared towards the outdoor industry. And so we got on board with those. We also did the Pursuit channel, and they have their own platform like that. It's kind of geared towards that, called Pursuit Up. And so we've got that digital thing. But as we moved into those specialty digital ones, we still put our episodes on YouTube, but we weren't necessarily promoting those links and that kind of stuff. And so it became where we'd see like super low numbers on viewing, and we weren't regularly posting either, because it was like we went from being a semi live show where we were posting 2 weeks after the kill the full episode. And what ended up happening was we ended up switching gears to allow us to take it to a higher level of production quality. So we wanted to produce at the very highest level the best TV show we could, to really tell the story and of that particular season, that hunt, whatever the case may be. But we wanted to make sure we took our time with it. So now it's more of a traditional format. We film everything that fall. We edit it over the winter, spring months, and then it airs that summer leading up to that next fall. And so what that led to us not necessarily posting as often on YouTube, which, if you don't keep posting, it kind of drags you down.
Right.
And so all of a sudden they started doing these shorts, and we were like, oh, well, what is this? And so then when we started putting just taking small videos that we were using in other formats and started putting that on there, I had it was this spring before turkey season got started. I literally had a short video, 30 seconds long, of me yelping on a mouth call. That's all it was. It was like kind of a close up. I was hunting. I was yelping on a mouth call, and it got like 500,000 views. And because of that huge explosion for that particular video, I think we gained 1,000 subscribers just that one, just to that one, just because of that one short. And I mean, and so it's kind of, it seems like it's kind of hit or miss. Like some of them just take off like wildfire, and some of them like you get a couple hundred, you know. And I think TikTok's the same way. Like
For sure.
I have some that have 30,000, you know, views and 5,000 likes, and then I've got some that, you know, have 200. So,
Yeah.
you know, it's very variable, but you know, that's fine. I think then what you have to do is you have to take what I call the Walmart approach, you know, volume, like
Yes.
push out stuff in volume. And then, you know, I told the team, I said, just go out and just capture video in that vertical format when you're living your daily life in the outdoors, because
Exactly.
that kind of stuff is easy to for me to take, and I can edit it literally on my phone. Like I don't have to edit it in a computer. I can there's plenty of apps out there. I can sit there, I can add music, I can cut it down, I can add overlays, I can do all kinds of stuff on my phone that I used to have to do in Premiere on my computer. And I don't have to do that. I do some of them, like some of the ones that are a little more, you know, a little higher production level, I'll do on the computer, but the vast majority of them, I can put those together on the phone, kick them out. Sponsors love it. Our partners love it because we can we can just show us using it, like using the product sponsor. Like it doesn't have to be. It can be very just, you know, not what I call a hard sell. Like we do some stuff that's a hard sell, but you know, it's a lot of times it's just kind of us living our life, doing our thing, and this is what we're doing, and we happen to be using this product. So
Exactly.
yeah, so that's kind of cool. It's always I always like to kind of talk a little insight on kind of the industry and that kind of stuff. And you know, if guys out there, I'm a firm believer that all of us hunters got to stick together, and all of us in the hunting industry got to stick together. Sure,
Absolutely.
there are other TV shows out there who, you know, we're all out here competing for, you know, marketing dollars and that kind of stuff, and we're trying to put out our best foot forward. But I'm not going to worry about what somebody else is doing or not doing. You know, we're just going to try to do what we think is the best we can to produce the best products. You know, and when I say products, I mean, you know, the best videos, the best content, and that kind of stuff, and hope it stands on its own. I don't need to worry about somebody else. So if we're talking about stuff and you have your own show out there and you gain something, you know, from this conversation about social media, by all means run with it, and hopefully it makes you, you know, a better show and that kind of stuff. Because, you know, we're not like, we're pretty, I guess I would hope that the rest of the team is pretty humble that way. Like we don't really, we're not, our competition isn't other shows. Our competition is ourselves. Like, I mean, when I go shoot 3D archery, and I don't do it competitively anymore, I used to, but even when I did it competitively, I treated it like golf. Like I wanted to go out and better my score. I wanted to put up my own personal best. And I think that's the way most of our guys view our hunting side of it. Like we may not kill a personal best, you know, deer every year, but that might be our goal. And I'm not trying to kill, you know, Zach Geeth killed a 200-inch deer, 210-inch deer last year. He's on our team. He's been on our team since the beginning. He is a legitimate big buck killer. I mean, that's just the way he is. He's got a 191 to his name. He's got several over 180. The guy knows how to kill big deer. But by saying that, like none of us on the team are sitting there going, well, now I got to kill a 200-inch deer. Like, I mean, the likelihood of that, like if you're setting yourself up for failure, like, yeah, I don't care.
Exactly.
We live in Iowa. You know, the whole team lives in Iowa. Um, we, you know, we just don't, you know, yes, we have maybe a better opportunity, better odds to kill a 200-inch deer, but they aren't around every tree. You know, so folks that are coming to Iowa this fall to hunt, you know, you're going to have some expectations and that kind of stuff out there. You're going to have some availability and that kind of thing. But just, you know, you can realistically expect that you might have an opportunity, depending on where you're hunting, at a deer over 150, which might be a buck of a lifetime for you. But you know, that expectations are kind of funny that way. But anyway,
Yeah, I
before I
love
get
that.
yeah, before I get
I mean,
down too many rabbit holes, I'll let you kind of speak to that a little bit.
yeah, no, I love what you said. I mean, at Tacticium especially, I feel like we do well with what we do, but I feel that we're a very humble company and we're here to support and help hunters. I mean, we make products to help hunters film their hunt, create memories, and save those memories. And I love that. I love the family vibe that we have here at Tactacam, and we really want to press that out to all of our customers. And we always call ourselves a Tacta family, and truly that's what it is. Whether you're a year in, 10 years in, or just started, I mean, we want to build that family vibe with everybody, customers included. And even outside of Tactacam, you don't gain anything from being a jealous person, from just being that kind of attitude. I think you've really got to learn from failure, take other people's advice, and be a good person. Really, that's what makes the world go around, is good people. And they're out there. There's definitely people that are kind of a stick in the mud and they don't want to share their knowledge of wealth or anything like that. But I mean, really, what how does that make you a better person, or how does that help others? I think having the mindset of being humble, being there for others. And hey, I learned, I put my stand in the wrong spot one year, and I learned from that. Hey, let me go out there and help other hunters, other people. Let's not make that mistake. Let me show you like a tip I learned on scouting, or things along those lines. I think it's especially coming from somebody like us who didn't grow up hunting, and we have a big, passion for outdoors and hunting and learning, and we had to put our boots on and get out there and learn from mistakes and just get out there and do it. We can be such a help to others, or learn from other people that have been doing it their whole lives. And I think
Yeah,
that's what it's about. You have to be there for other people, and talking bad on others, and that's not going to get you anywhere, and it's not going to
yeah,
grow.
yeah. Definitely not gonna make you a better hunter. To post a comment on somebody's picture that that's not positive. And I mean,
Exactly.
and you kind of hit on a couple of things there that I think are worth kind of highlighting, I guess. One thing that I thought um, that was really a good illustration of being that good hunter is being able to grow and getting out there. So a couple of like I helped a couple of my buddies get into bow hunting. They were hunters. They were bird hunters. I mean, in Iowa, like growing up in the '90s, in the '70s, '80s, and '90s, Iowa was more known for its pheasant hunting than it was for its deer hunting. And so people may not know that if you weren't I was born in the '80s, so I grew up in the '90s, and I started hunting and bird hunting and stuff like that in the late '90s. And so a lot of my buddies that did that, that was a passion of theirs. Like that's what they did. They had the bird dogs and all that kind of stuff. And I started bow hunting. I started shooting a bow probably when I was 16. I think I got one. I think I got my first compound bow for my 16th birthday, but I actually didn't go bow hunting with that. That actual bow was the bow I went bow hunting with, but it was probably several years later that I actually got into bow hunting. Is when I had my first job out of college, and I met some bow hunters that worked with me, and they kind of said, "Hey, you got a bow?" And I'm like, "Yeah." I'm like, "I don't. I'm gonna need to put on some new sights and a rest and all that kind of stuff because everything is way outdated. It's a 10-year-old bow." And they're like, "Well, let's go get that done." So I went and got, I had aluminum arrows back then, but then I got carbon arrows. I got a new sight. I got a new rest, and I took this old mid '90s PSC bow, and I went out and killed my first deer with it, and it was a doe, and that hooked me. But one of the things that I learned through that, the first couple of seasons, is being able to train your eye and to recognize movement when you're sitting in a tree stand. So you didn't have deer sneaking up on you or squirrels or whatever the case may be. And, if you're hunting, especially in like, I mean, it's different if you're hunting on the edge of a field and they walk out into the field, it's kind of obvious. But when deer are making their way or turkeys are making their way through the timber and that kind of stuff, they move relatively slow, and it might be a flicker of a tail that you actually catch. And so you won't actually see the deer. They may be 180 yards away, but you see a flick of a tail and you're like, I saw something over there. Now, it's funny because sometimes I think I saw a flick of a tail and it ends up being that it was a Tweety bird that flew by and I saw its wing flash, you know, but my eye now trains into find movement and that continues to develop. But what do you have to do in order to have that? You can't read about it in a magazine. You have to get out, have those experiences, and train your eye to catch movement in the timber. And honestly, like I think that's one of the biggest things, because I think when you aren't, we go all summer, and I guess if you turkey hunt, you're in the woods turkey hunting and that kind of stuff. So you train yourself there to, from a different angle from the ground usually, to look for movement. But you go all summer not deer hunting from a tree stand, and then all of a sudden deer season rolls around and you jump up on a tree stand. Um, or some guys don't even go into the woods until the rut kicks in. I
Yep.
would caution bow hunters against that. Get out. Maybe if you're able to buy a doe tag or something like that, get out. Maybe if you want to save some stands and that kind of stuff, cool. Like I do that occasionally. Like I know I've got a big buck in that area and I know I'm probably might not be able to kill him, and I don't want to go hunt that stand just yet. But I've got this stand over here that does walk in front of every single afternoon. I'm going to go over there and I'm going to kill a stand. Get some time in the stand, get your eyes adjusted and accustomed to it and that kind of stuff. So the first time you're out hunting, and it doesn't, I mean, Ian Sparks, our one of our team members, a couple years ago, first day out, October 1st, October 1 of Iowa's bow season. So day one, he killed a 160-inch giant. But that is pretty rare. And
Yeah.
and it was a specific kind of situation where he kind of knew that if he got the right weather conditions and he got deer moving early type of conditions, he knew it was going to be a possibility. And so it's not that you can't be successful super early in the season. You can, um, but I would recommend that you get out, get a little seat time in there before it's go time, before it's the rut and that kind of stuff, so that you can kind of just get your eyes adjusted. And the more you do that, the more seasons you put underneath your belt, the more little things you pick up, the little tiny, you know, things. There's just certain things that you can't read in a magazine, you can't listen to on a podcast. You just got to experience it. And
Exactly.
you mentioned before we kind of started recording, you mentioned that you've been bow hunting for about or been deer hunting, I should say, for about 10 years, and the majority of your deer hunting is kind of geared towards bow hunting now. And I would say most of us are at the Victory Outdoors team, we're in this similar boat. Like everybody bow hunts, like the whole team bow hunts, and we have varying levels of gun hunters. So
Yeah.
I would say to some degree we all gun hunt, but I would say the majority of our episodes are probably centered around archery. But you know, we certainly, and that's probably a product of being in Iowa. Unlike Missouri, in Iowa, our gun seasons don't start until December. So in most cases, we're kind of outside the rut. In Missouri, that is an opportunity that gun hunters have, is they are able to hunt in November, and that allows for some hunting during the rut. And we won't get into whether or not that's a good thing or bad thing as far as deer go and that kind of thing, because that's a whole
Yeah.
different topic. But
Most definitely.
yeah, that's a whole podcast by itself. But I'll bring Drexel on. Drexel's our transplant from Missouri. He grew up just across the line. He was good friends with some of our guys down there in Bedford, Iowa, and he and his family, some of his families from that area. So he ended up moving back, and so he has some very strong feelings on hunting during the rut, because he saw it firsthand in Missouri. And so I'll just leave it at that. But bottom line is, you know, it's still an opportunity, and I don't, you know, take advantage of those opportunities and get out and put that time in the woods. And I feel like it just, every sit, learn something and be positive. I probably preach this to my guys a little too much, and I have a tendency to get a little preachy sometimes. But I expect when I go to the tree stand, I expect that I'm going to fill my tag on whatever my target buck is. I want to be prepared to kill a 200-inch deer if one presents the opportunity. So what does that mean? That means that I want to make sure that I've shot my bow and I'm competent and confident in my bow and my abilities. Okay, so that starts all summer long. That starts, it really heats up this time of the year where I start shooting daily every morning. It's just blind veil shooting. I'm not, necessarily shooting at distance, but I'm just practicing that good release, that good form, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Um, and all that stuff. Well, that's a whole different, that's all part of getting up that morning. And then the other thing is it keeps you, when you're confident, don't ever, I don't know. I've read so many articles and social media posts where this guy takes, his wife or his girlfriend out and or child out, and they kill this giant, deer, and they didn't ever see the deer. Like they never had trail cam photos of that deer or anything. So you really, even though as great as our reveal trail cameras are, at giving us a great inventory of deer on our farms, I mean, as great as they are, you still don't capture every single deer on a property. And you definitely don't know what might be on a neighboring property that happens to wander by your tree stand.
Yes.
And yeah, and so one of those things is like, I mean, I hope you don't need extra motivation to get out of bed and stuff. But if you do, like, just remember and be thankful for the opportunities we have in this country, and get out and exercise your ability to hunt, because you have the opportunity to be able to get up and do it. I mean, you aren't going to work that day. Like
Exactly.
if it's a hunting day and you're not going to work, like, for crying out loud, get out of bed and even if you don't see anything, it's still better than work, right? I mean, that's the oldest saying in hunting, the hunting circles. How many signs have you seen that a day of work is better than, or excuse me, a day of hunting is better than a day at work? I mean, there's fishing signs like that. It's a common thing. Like, everybody knows
Yes.
it's. I mean, I'm sure there's some bad days in the tree stand, but it beats probably being at work. But anyway, I'll get off my soapbox now, and
That's
but
one,
yeah,
yeah,
go
I
ahead.
agree. That's one thing I was actually, my grandpa is my biggest supporter when it comes to hunting, and I am so thankful for him and the relationship I have with him. And it's an awesome thing about TactCam is I'll film something and I go and show him and whatnot because he can't unfortunately go out into the woods anymore. So it's awesome being able to show him and just talk about hunting with him. But I was just over there last week talking and we're like, there's nothing better than watching the woods wake up in the morning. I mean, it is such a unreal experience. And, if you're a hunter, I mean, it's beautiful, listening to the birds and the squirrels move and just seeing like the animals and how they interact with each other, how, you're in their environment and just watching how all of that goes about and the movement of everything. There's nothing better and it's so something that's humbling and it's a great experience and you really do have to be so thankful for it and it's a beautiful time and exactly how you said it's you're not working. It's a great day.
Right.
So take advantage of it.
Yeah, definitely. Speaking of that, let's talk a little bit about Tactacam. You mentioned being able to share, and that's really, I think from me when I founded Victory Outdoors back in 2012, we always, the team members that I look for, and that I bring on board and that kind of stuff, we're usually a relatively small team, but I've always looked for people that they care more about sharing the hunt, than being the star of the hunt. And so we've never really looked at it from that standpoint of, getting to boast about our hunts and that kind of stuff. Most of us want to preserve those moments so that we can either go back ourselves or show our children. Some of the younger guys, they don't have kids yet, but I know for a fact that like Garrett, he just got married. They just had their first baby. He started with his dad hunting with Victory Outdoors. His dad was a team member, and he was probably 14 or 15 years old and running around with his dad, running camera in front of the camera. I don't think he killed his first deer on film, but he might have killed his first bow buck on film. And, I know that, he filmed Talon or Rydell, which Talon was just a buddy of theirs that Garrett, they went to high school together and that kind of stuff. And the two of them were together, and here they are, two, 15, 16 year olds, somewhere in that range. And, Garrett filmed Talon kill his first ever deer, with a bow, and, just being able to capture those moments. And now Garrett has, a child of his own, and he can someday, I mean, she's real little yet, but when she's able to comprehend it, she'll be able to watch those videos when he was a kid, essentially, all the way through now, where he's just, a full blown team member and that kind of stuff. And that's something that I truly believe, you know, it kind of really aligns with, Tactacam's values as well as our values. Is we're really all about sharing the hunt. And I've told this story already on the podcast, so I apologize if you guys have heard it, but I'll keep it short. But I owe a lot to the 6.0. So I'm going to show it real quick. It's the new camera. It's a little bit different design and that kind of stuff. A little bit different size and shape. So if you guys are watching the video, you could see that. But one of the things about the 6.0, and I'm not knocking the other models or anything like that, or the predecessors to the 6.0 at all, because they did a great job. But the footage quality of the 6.0 is such a quantum leap compared to anything else in the industry, including the other Tactacam models. That I mean, we had one of these last fall. We had one, and it was on my bow. I guess the perks of being the owner, but it was on my bow, and I'm thankful it was, because I wouldn't have an episode. It was late in November, and I was self-filming, and I had done a lot of self-filming that year. It's the first year I'd self-filmed probably in 4 or 5 years. And I was really kind of, it was one of those things where other team members had been very successful self-filming, and it kind of inspired me, like, well, if they can do it, I can do it. Like, I just got to put in the effort. It's a little more effort. It's a little more work, to self-film, because you got to pack more stuff in. You got to bring a camera and all that stuff.
Right.
So, cause we use big TV cameras, right? I mean, but we supplement with that, with getting different angles with our Tactacams. Well, it's late November and gun season's right around the corner. And I'm sitting there going, I mean, if a doe walks by, I'm killing a doe, because I got to get a kill under my belt, because as soon as gun season happens, it gets way more incredibly harder to fill your bow tag after gun season than it is before gun season.
Right.
And so I'm like, I just got to get a kill under my belt. I had set out at the beginning of the archery season. I actually went on a couple of doe hunts, and my sole goal was, I didn't take the big production camera with me. I only took Tactacams, and I had some wide angle Tactacams set up, and I had a 6.0 running off the end of my bow. And my goal was to self-film 100% with Tactacam, just a doe kill. That's all I was looking for. And of course, every time I wanted to do it, I had like 4-year-old bucks that I wanted to pass come by, and a no doe would give me a shot. And it's like best laid plans. So, is what it is. But all of a sudden I find myself and I see these does coming, and they're going to walk right out in front of me at 25 yards. And I'm like, sweet. Like finally, this stand is starting to pay off. You mentioned a little earlier about putting the stand in the wrong spot and learning from that. That happened last year. I was like, about 3 sits in to that stand in November. I'm like, this stands in the wrong spot. It needs to be up the hill about 80 yards. And but it kind of is what it kind of
It
was what
is
it
what it
was.
is.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. At that point in time, I couldn't risk going in there and moving this stand. It was a ladder stand because it was actually set up for my wife to hunt out of. So her and I could go, and when I did hunt with somebody, it was generally with her last year, and so I couldn't just really easily move it. And so I was like, well, I'll just make do. I'm seeing lots of deer. It's a matter of time before these deer make their way past here, and I actually get that opportunity. Um, so I see these does coming. The first doe walks out with two fawns. She walks out at 25 yards, and she just keeps walking. She doesn't stop. She just keeps walking, and I'm like, okay. And I've got the Tactacam running at this point, and I'm doing my thing. I'm filming, her. I've got my big camera kind of set up kind of over my shoulder, but I don't have it. I have it on, but I don't have it recording. And so that doe and two fawns is out in front of me. They kind of working their way kind of, and I think they started feeding, but I noticed there were two more does coming, and so I started watching them. They start walking towards me on a different trail that's going to bring them either directly underneath my stand, or they're going to turn right out in front of me about 15 to 20 yards. So about 5 to 10 yards closer than the other deer came. And I'm like, sweet. I'm like, I'll kill one of them. This is working out great. And I catch a glimpse of another deer coming, and it's my target buck. It's the main deer that I'm after. I've seen him multiple times, and I have deer in front of me at 20, anywhere from 20 to 35 yards at this point. Like they're deer, they're there. They're not alert. They have no idea I'm there. They're just kind of doing deer things, just walking down the trails. And I'm like, there is no way I can reach up and turn on my big camera and get it positioned to get this. I really hope this Tactacam is doing what it needs to do. And I had a wide running, I had a wide angle running on me. So I had that going for me. But so I had at least a second angle. But I'm sitting there and
Right.
I'm like, he comes out, he walks, he's following the does. He walks right out in front of me at 20 yards. I make the
Oh
shot.
my gosh.
And the footage is beautiful. And I got home, and the funny thing about it was, I let him sit for just a bit because I felt like the shot was a little bit back, and I was like, it's it's right in that either back of the lungs or liver shot,
Mhm.
because he was on the walk. And I didn't want to stop him because he was that close. So I just didn't lead him enough, and I guess probably because I was worried about hitting him in the shoulder. So, um, bottom line was, hit him with just a touch back. So I went back and I reviewed the footage, and instantly I'm like, wow. Like I was blown away. And it wasn't like I hadn't looked at other footage from it like throughout the year and that kind of stuff, and I knew how good it was. But I get it. I get the shot, and I did the smart thing of making sure you don't drop your bow arm and you continue to follow that deer. So I got all of that, got him running off,
Awesome.
that whole group of does, and they run off and they all stand. You can't really see him in that part, but you can see deer standing about probably 50 yards away, 60 yards away. And they just stand there and look like what happened. And so then they all worked off slowly, and he went one direction and they went another. And I was like, okay, I'll give him some time. But I was able to look at that. The footage was so good, and it's 4K footage, so I mean it's pretty high quality. But I was able to zoom into that footage on my computer and see, and I was like, yeah, definitely a liver shot. It's not in the guts, but it's probably not catching the lungs either. I need to give him a little time, and so a couple things there. But bottom line is, what it comes down to is, I had an amazing season. I bow hunted probably more than I had in the last 5 years in one particular season. Like I put in a lot of time in the tree stands, which was fortunate. My day job allows me to do that, but I was able to really, put in a lot of time, and I had a lot of great footage, both with the Tactacam and the big camera. And I'm sitting there like, I need to kill though. Like, I mean, not that I can't make an episode about just hunting, but let's be honest, you know, successful stories are better than unsuccessful stories. And so,
Most definitely.
yeah, so I mean, I wanted to end my archery season on a successful, and it happened to be a 5.5-year-old fully mature 9 pointer. As a 9 pointer, he went, 158 and change. So great deer. He was the most mature deer on that farm, at least on that area of the farm that I was hunting. I had multiple trail cam pictures of him. I had multiple encounters with him throughout the year. And then to be able to bring that to a close. But honestly, like without the 6.0, that episode isn't the level that it is now. And so I'm super excited. It comes out here in a couple of weeks. It'll air here in a couple of weeks. So I'm super excited about that. For those of you that want to see the TACTACAM footage, I might actually put it in this video, but it is in a short on YouTube, and it's also, I believe, on a reel on Instagram. So at Victory Outdoors, check that out. You can actually watch that hunt kind of unfold, at least from the 6.0 standpoint. I didn't put any wide angle shots or anything like that. All I did is zoomed in and made it a vertical format and kind of kept him in the center of it. But it's pretty cool. I mean, you'll get to see the full entire season on how it unfolds. But if you want to see that TACTACAM footage itself, it was absolutely amazing. I'll put a little clip in here for the folks watching on video to check that out. But yeah, what can you tell us about that 6.0 and kind of what you've heard from both customers and then as well as the industry alike? I mean, to me, it's the best thing that they've ever come out with, and that's a big statement from TACTACAM, because that company, when you think that they've topped, just when they think they've topped that mountaintop, they push that envelope and they come out with something that is absolutely, to me, like it saved my entire season.
Yeah, I agree. I have mine here as well. I love my 6.0. I mean, it is the image stabilization, the video quality. I've heard nothing but good things from customers. From my own personal experience, I killed a good doe. She literally walked 5 yards away from me. It was crazy, and I got that on my 6.0. And I mean, the footage is, like you said, is so good. And I, yeah, I've heard nothing but good things about it. I love to waterfowl hunt. It's a big thing of mine I like to do now. And I went to South Dakota, and we didn't have the greatest weather conditions for spring for snow geese. It was very cold. Birds were just not working how we wanted to. We got a few that came in, and I got it on my 6.0. But just even looking back at the sky and how pretty the sky was, and just things like that, you can see everything so clear and it's very pretty. But another thing that you mentioned too was when you took your bow shot and you're like, well, I think I hit it a little bit further back than I would have liked. I need to give this deer some time. That's another thing I love about self-filming with a Tactacam is if you're ever questioning, your shot or anything like that, you can easily pull up your 6.0 footage or your Tactacam footage and look back. I mean, I take a bow shot and I'm like, oh no, did I do everything right? Was that a good enough shot? And you don't want to get down from your seat too early. You don't want to spook anything or push anything further. But I'm the same way. I want to like connect right away and look at that shot and see how it is, just to like give myself some like reassurance on the shot and everything. But that's another great helpful tool. And for people that think about bringing in tracking dogs or anything like that, that is one thing that is another benefit is showing the footage to a tracker if that's what's needed, to them off your 6.0 or
Yep.
cameras as well. It's super helpful.
Yeah, for sure.
And the,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. And one thing you hit on, and I just want to kind of make sure, because um, you know, you talked about connecting to the camera. That's one thing that, you have the ability to do is you actually can connect to the camera with your phone, and you can be sitting there right in the stand and be reviewing that footage immediately. Like I drove home, threw it up on my
exactly.
computer because I wanted a big screen to be able to look into it and see exactly what had happened. And I knew I was going to give that deer some time anyway. The difference would have been like, oh no, man, smoke show, he's dead. Well, I knew from the way the deer ran about 50 yards and then walked off that it wasn't probably lungs. Like, I mean, just being honest
Right.
with myself, like I knew I was gonna have to let that deer have a little bit of time. Now, as it was, I sat for an hour in my stand waiting before I got down, and then I got down and he was long gone. But and then by the time we got back after we'd given him some time and found him, I mean, he was probably dead before I got out of the stand, but
Right.
which is great. I don't want a deer to
Of
suffer,
course.
but, but just being able to give it some time and that kind of stuff. And it was cold. It's not like it was late November. It's not like I had any
Right.
worry about the meat spoiling or anything like that. But yeah, it was great. I mean, I I would much rather recover the deer and have the meat available and all that kind of stuff. I don't think I'm going to push the envelope, but I'm not, I'm not going to wait a day, necessarily before I go out and look. I'm gonna get after that deer because I'm gonna want to make sure that I do have that meat portion. But anyway, yeah, definitely being able to hook up to that is awesome.
Yes.
And the features and you brought up a good point too. Like, it's not just for bow hunters. These work awesome on guns. They work awesome for you know, whether you're turkey hunting, waterfowl, all that kind of stuff. They have a mount literally for everything. And one of the things we did during
Exactly.
turkey season is I didn't run my 6.0. I ran one of them like a long ways off, facing my location, but like in line with the decoys. But I put it far enough back because it's not a wide angle camera, right? So I put it far enough back so that it would get that. So one of the cool things about that is I had a 6.0 out there, and you can crystal clear see me when I go to draw my bow. You can see my bow moving, and I'm like, well, no wonder that turkey kind of looked all of a sudden kind of got alert when I drew my bow. It wasn't because he heard me; he definitely could see me inside my blind,
Right.
So it's kind of cool. Gave me a little bit of a advantage, I think, for the next time. Like, I know that if I'm not far enough back in that blind, that I need to make sure that that turkey can't see me in the blind, because I could review that footage on that 6.0, and I can see me, like, before the turkey actually gets in front of the blind, it was off to my far right. And you can see me leaning forward, kind of peeking out the side of the blind. You can see my face and everything, like, perfectly crystal clear. It's 4K video. And I'm like, oh my goodness. Like, I did not know that you could see in the blind that easily. And so it was kind of interesting. Like, I now have some experiences looking back where I remember I've had some serious experiences where we had a turkey coming into the decoys, and my daughter was sitting on the floor, and my wife was going to shoot this turkey, and she was sitting on the floor playing on her iPad, and we got her up so that she could see the turkey. Well, I'm 100% sure that when her head popped up with her blonde hair, that turkey, because all of a sudden it's like whoop, like it was like angry marching. It was an angry marching towards the decoy, like, usually you think it's a done deal, like this is
Right.
happening. Natalie, quick, get up, look, watch. And it saw something and takes off and runs off, and
Oh,
and she doesn't end up killing the turkey. And it's like, what happened? Well, what happened is uh, we missed out on that opportunity to harvest that, because now I know for sure, that confirmed it for me. That turkey definitely saw my daughter's head pop up. So um, that was cool. But then the other thing we did is we actually mounted this. I had another 6.0, because by spring we had a few more.
yeah.
Thanks TACTACAM. But we had a few more of these, and so I actually mounted one, not on my weapon, but from that same point of view, but on the main camera's tripod. I put one that was pointed out, so it got a wider view than my big camera had. So I zoomed up on the decoys, and I had the turkeys. I had a 5.0 wide out in the thing, and so I could turn on all four Tactacams with one push of a button. So all four Tactacams would turn on. I had a wide inside the blind, and I had a 6.0 outside the blind, or inside and outside the blind, and then I had another Tactacam wide in the decoys. And so I'm getting all that plus the big cameras tight on the decoys, and then I'm archery trying to shoot, and I'm all self filming it all, and was able to capture all of that footage largely because of the Tactacam. And so I've got all these different cool angles and everything that I can use to develop the episode and everything. And you know, I got the 6.0 to thank for that. And then the fact that you can use a remote. So something to keep in
Yes.
mind is having that remote. You can wear it around wear it around your neck or put it in a pocket, but you reach up, you press the button. And so I know this year during archery season, We will probably have, we'll definitely have it on our stabilizer. I like to use the clamp mount, and I like to put it on my stabilizer. That's because I like the stabilizer I have, so I don't use the actual Tactacam stabilizer mount, but I use a clamp mount, and I mount it on my stabilizer, and that seems to work really good for me. But what I like to do is then I'll put another one in kind of my most likely shooting hole that I most likely think that the deer are likely to come there. But it'll be a movable, one of those um, movable flexible arms as far
Yes.
as a mount goes. And so I'll try to get that. So I can, if I think, oh, they're not going to come into that shooting lane, they're going to come into this shooting lane. So I can go ahead and I can adjust that if I need to. And then obviously I generally speaking, Dennis and I film together. So we'll more than likely be running, our cameras for ourselves and that kind of stuff. We'll be running the big camera, and we a lot of times will kind of both take our bows, and kind of just depending on which deer comes in, depends on who's going to be the shooter and who's going to be the cameraman. So
Sure.
yeah, so I mean that's kind of how we do it, how we integrate the Tascam into what we do. But absolutely was blown away by the 6.0. Real quick before we're done here, let's talk about the other camera that you guys have, and it's the Solo Extreme. And so it was kind of an upgrade of the first Solo model that came out a couple of years ago, and so that camera, it doesn't quite. It has a lot of the same aspects of the 6.0, maybe not as
Hmm.
many bells and whistles. Um, but it's still a great camera, and it still gets great quality. I put that on my wife's bow last fall, and so she used that a lot, and it was a solid camera, got great footage. What can you tell us a little bit about that? I mean, I think you guys are actually, how long you guys got them on sale right now? I know there's a promotion going on right now, and so this podcast is going to post next Monday. So we're sitting August 11th. It's right now. So I don't know how long is your sale going that you guys have on that extreme.
I believe it's going until the end of the month. Probably should know that for sure, but should be going till the end of the month. We post everything on social media, Facebook, emails, all of that. So definitely head over to our website or even our Facebook page at TactCam, and you can see that promotion that we have going on. But we have a really good combo pack on that Solo Extreme right now. Um,
Yeah.
I definitely love the 6.0. It's my go-to as well. But I do love the Solo Extreme. It took like the fisheye, the Solo, and the 5.0 5 wide and kind of morphed it into one camera, really. So the Solo Extreme has in a like a different lens that you just unscrew the lens that's on it and screw on a wide lens, and you get a really wide, great field of view with that lens in just a few seconds. Super easy to screw on. It is waterproof as well, like the fisheye was. It has a great loop mode. It does have a red dot feature on it as well, and you can change that around for shooting clays. It's pretty light, and it'll go. So with the 6.0, it is different mounts that you have to use for it,
Right.
but we've recently upgraded all of our mounts as well, so they're all universal for each camera. So the Solo Extreme is great, just another great camera that we came out with. Easy to use.
I
It's a
love that
good one to
fisheye.
use. The fisheye is really cool.
Yeah,
Like the
yeah.
Solo
So
Extreme, yeah, you can do same things with it, and I would use that one more for in the decoys or that kind of
yep.
second second camera use.
Yeah, I said I had a 5.0 wide, but it was actually the Solo Extreme with the fisheye on inside the blind. So, so I mean, but yeah, we got Solo Extreme. We had one of those last fall, and I just went out and bought the fisheye. I was like, I think it's like 20 or $30. It's not very expensive to get that little add-on feature, and
Yep.
it's well worth it. It allows you to be able to get that wide view and be able to make that a more diversible, a more diverse use of a camera. Like versatility. That's the word I was looking for. It gives you that versatility to make it the wide angle. You can use it with the regular lens, and it can be just as good as, or not better than, the 5.0 was. And so it's a great camera, and it's just a little bit lower price point. So
Yeah.
if you're sitting there looking at the 6.0 and you're like, it's a little bit out of my price range, but I really want to capture my hunts, and I'm not toting around a big TV camera or even a camcorder. Look at that Solo Extreme. It's still a phenomenal camera.
Yes.
But like we said, it's just a little lower price point. But like we still use it. I mean, it's still a great camera. It
Oh,
still gets
yeah.
great footage. So, well, it's been awesome. We couldn't have been more excited to have you join us. We'll have to get more updates from you, kind of at maybe mid-season, kind of as your archery season's rolling on and that kind of stuff. You can kind of maybe check in with us and get you back on the podcast and kind of see how your fall season's rolling along. Give a little update on how we're doing. We're getting back in the mode of things with our podcast and doing more weekly updates. We're going to have not only guests on from the hunting industry. We're going to continue to bring on, just good, solid hunters that can share their, you know, team members as well. But we're going to bring on just some guests of people that we know personally that have a wealth of knowledge because they've done it for years, and be able to share that with you guys. So thank you for listening. Zoe, thank you for making time for us today. I know you guys are super busy there at TACTACAM. You guys have a million and one things going on, but continue to innovate, continue to push the envelope, and thanks for joining us.
Absolutely. Thank you guys for having me. And yeah, I'd love to, give a mid-season checkup and see how things are going this archery season as well.
Awesome.
Thank
Well, good
you.
luck this fall, and hey, good luck everybody. We're kind of getting close. It's August, so some of the seasons are going to start opening up for people. Whether you're chasing antelope or whether you're actually have a whitetail season. I mean, the first whitetail seasons that I'm aware of, for the most part, I know we've got some guys that are going to travel to Kentucky. We got some guys that'll travel to Nebraska. They have September 1st opening, days and that kind of stuff. And Dennis and I are going to run out on an elk hunt out west. So, it's getting close. It's really getting close, guys. But thanks again, Zoe, for having taking time out of your day to chat with us. And thank all of you for listening. And we'll be back here again next week with another edition of the podcast. Thanks, guys.